Can cold weather cause a cold? A comprehensive examination of the myths and realities. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's video. In this episode, we're going to dive deep into a common misconception that many of us have heard at some point in our lives: the belief that cold weather directly causes us to catch a cold. We've all been told, don't go out in the cold or you'll catch a cold, or you're going to get sick if you don't bundle up. But is there any truth to this idea? Or is it just another myth that's been perpetuated through generations? Today we're going to explore this claim, examine scientific research, and discuss the real reasons why we're more likely to catch a cold during the colder months. To begin, it's important to clarify what a cold actually is. A cold is caused by viruses, primarily rhinoviruses, which are responsible for the majority of common colds. These viruses spread from person to person, usually through droplets in the air, when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Therefore, colds have very little to do with the temperature outside or the number of layers you wear to stay warm. In fact, it's not the cold weather itself that causes us to catch a cold, but rather a combination of factors that increase our exposure to these viruses. Let's break this down. The science of viruses in cold weather. According to research, the common cold virus, specifically rhinovirus, thrives in cooler conditions. The viruses that cause the common cold are more likely to replicate in the cooler temperatures that are found inside the human nasal passages compared to the body's core temperature. This has been well documented in scientific studies, including a study by Yale Medicine that showed rhinoviruses replicate more efficiently in cooler nasal temperatures. This phenomenon might explain why colds are more common during the fall and winter months. In colder temperatures, the virus behaves more effectively, giving it an advantage in infecting its host too. How cold affects your immune system. Next, let's discuss how cold weather can impact your immune system. According to a report from PBS News, exposure to cold air can actually reduce the efficiency of the immune cells in the respiratory tract, making it easier for viruses to enter and take hold in your body. When we breathe in cold air, the blood vessels in our nasal passages constrict, which decreases the flow of immune cells to the area. This weakened immune response makes it easier for viruses like the common cold to establish an infection. Moreover, when temperatures drop, people tend to spend more time indoors in confined spaces, increasing the likelihood of coming into contact with infected individuals. In these indoor environments, the air tends to be drier, which further compromises the mucous membranes in the respiratory tract, making it easier for viruses to penetrate. This reduction in immune defense could be a factor contributing to the increased frequency of cold infections during the colder months. Through behavioral factors that increase risk of catching a cold. Another critical factor contributing to the increase in cold-related illnesses during the winter months is not the temperature itself, but rather the behaviors that accompany colder weather. According to a study shared by Medical News Today, during winter, people tend to congregate indoors much more frequently than in warmer months. Whether it's in schools, offices, or public transportation, crowded indoor spaces create an environment where respiratory viruses can easily spread from person to person. This is particularly problematic because we are often in close proximity to others, which allows the virus to spread through coughs, sneezes, and even talking. Furthermore, the dry indoor air associated with colder weather can dry out the mucous membranes in our respiratory system, making it more difficult for our bodies to filter out pathogens. This drying effect is particularly common in places where heating systems are running constantly, circulating warm but dry air. In fact, studies have shown that dry air can lower the body's natural defense mechanisms, creating an optimal environment for viruses to thrive and infect their hosts. Let's now address the myth that directly stepping out into cold weather causes a cold. If you've heard that going outside without a jacket or staying in cold weather will cause you to get sick, you're not alone. However, according to scientific research, this is simply not true. While exposure to cold conditions can weaken the immune response, it's important to note that viruses themselves are the root cause of colds, not the weather. In other words, the cold temperatures don't directly cause illness, but they can create the conditions that make it easier for you to catch a cold if you are exposed to a virus. That being said, there are indeed other factors that make cold weather more conducive to viral infections. For example, as mentioned earlier, colder weather encourages people to spend more time indoors, increasing their chances of coming into contact with someone who is infected. Additionally, the indoor heating in homes and workplaces can further lower humidity levels, which has been shown to make it easier for viruses to spread. So, while you might feel uncomfortable or even chilled by cold weather, simply being exposed to the cold air itself will not cause you to catch a cold. The virus must still be present in order for you to get sick. This helps to clear up the misconception that cold weather is a direct cause of colds. Now that we've discussed the relationship between cold weather and colds, what can we do to protect ourselves? The first and most important step is maintaining good hygiene. Regular hand washing is one of the best ways to prevent the spread of germs. Avoid touching your face, particularly your eyes, nose, and mouth, as viruses can enter the body through these points. If you do feel under the weather, make sure to stay home to avoid infecting others. Additionally, staying hydrated is key in maintaining your body's defense mechanisms. Drinking plenty of water helps to keep the mucous membranes moist, which in turn aids in trapping and expelling viruses before they can establish an infection. It's also essential to dress appropriately for the weather. Wearing layers and keeping your body temperature stable can help support your immune function and reduce the stress that cold exposure may cause. Finally, one of the simplest ways to avoid colds is to avoid close contact with people who are already sick. By limiting your exposure to people with cold or flu-like symptoms, you can reduce your chances of getting infected. And of course, getting enough rest, eating a balanced diet, and managing stress all play important roles in keeping your immune system strong. In conclusion, while it is a common belief that cold weather causes a cold, the reality is much more complicated. Cold weather itself doesn't directly cause illness. However, cold temperatures can create conditions that make it easier for viruses to spread and make the immune system less efficient at fighting off infections. The increase in cold-related illnesses is likely due to a combination of factors, including the behavior of viruses in colder conditions, the impact of cold on immune function, and the increase in indoor gatherings during the winter months. So, the next time someone tells you that going outside in the cold will give you a cold, you can confidently explain that while cold weather can affect your immune response, it's the viruses themselves that are responsible for the illness. Make sure to follow preventive measures such as good hygiene, staying hydrated, and avoiding close contact with sick individuals to keep yourself safe. Thank you once again for watching this video. I hope you now have a clear understanding of the real reasons behind cold and flu infections in colder weather. Stay healthy and take care of your immune system, no matter the season.